We all know. We all know what the Outer Worlds 2 was gonna bring us. Just look at the Outer Worlds 1. It was kind of just subpar. It was mid. And then Avowed came out. It was mid. A lot of people said it was awful. A lot of people said it was great. And guess what? They're both liars. It was mid. It was like a 7 out of 10. And the Outer Worlds 2, guess what? I called it. Same thing. It's gonna be mid. And I'm betting, I'm guaranteeing that Mr. Matty is gonna say the same thing. I bet my channel on it. Seriously. Alright, let's get into it.
Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. Hope you're all doing absolutely excellent. Today, we're gathering around to talk about the Outer Worlds 2. I went hands-on with this bad boy nice and early. Got to play the prologue stretch of the game, which went for a little bit over an hour.
I was really looking forward to the first game because I heard that it was going to be like a spiritual successor to New Vegas. And then I played it, and it wasn't. I was very disappointed. It felt more like a spiritual successor to Borderlands, the pre-sequel.
That twice over to see if I can make different choices and how that would play out. More on that in a bit. But going into this, you know, I was kind of in that middle area with the Outer Worlds 2, like excited for it, but almost cautiously so, which is not usually like me with Obsidian RPGs, but I felt like...
Yeah, I wasn't excited for Outer Worlds 2 at all. Neither was I for Avowed. I was out on it completely.
After Avowed, I had to
Double
just pepper myself a little bit, but this also looked like the big one for Obsidian in a lot of ways. Like they were swinging hard with this compared to the likes of Avowed or Pentiment or Grounded. This is where a lot of the resources went, and I feel you could.
Yeah, in the Outer Worlds, it had some bumpy releases, especially on PC. Like what was it? The special edition. They released a new edition of it. It was upgraded, and it was worse than the original edition. It was real bad.
Immediately feel that with this game and how it's presented, and I'll break that down. The TLDR is this. I've done previews for probably a decade now, and I have to say this was one of the safest I've seen. Nothing necessarily alarmed me outside of a little bit of player choice.
Yeah, safe equals they didn't take any risks at all, and it's just normal and boring
dialogue. But given
no
the
stakes
breadth of the Outer Worlds 2 and what Obsidian's talking about, I saw very little of that in my preview.
Yeah, like these character designs, they're just boring. Like Mass Effect 2 did a better job with the faces.
This was a 1 hour slice of the game's prologue. Meanwhile, when I think back to my first preview of the
shadows aren't hard enough. It's too blobby. Like, what's going on here, man? Why is everything always so blobby whenever you use the Unreal Engine?
Outer Worlds 1, I got my hands on a lot more. I got to see
the
things
lighting
like
looks good.
Leveling up. I got to see things like
but the shadows look like Marathon.
Exploration. I got to see how my choices played out. This felt like a far less confident and more safe showing of the game. I don't know what RPG benefits from seeing an hour of the introduction of the game. It doesn't mean it's bad, but it also doesn't mean I can safely say what's here will be good, which should
I'd rather play bad than mid.
Be objective number one of any preview. Show what makes the game work, what makes the game tick, what makes the game exciting. I got to experience gunplay and stealth and extremely minor choice and consequence that, if explored on a larger scale, could be cool. But after this preview, I firmly remain in the place where Outer Worlds 2, I'm hoping for the best. I'm seeing some things I like, barring some of the player choice dialogue, but I'm not really able to make heads or tails of it in a definitive way until the final release.
Like, everything looks like it's made in a Pixar movie.
And I feel like they need to swing harder if they do another preview on this game. I have more thoughts I'll share in a little bit, but if you're new here, consider subscribing. And before we begin, a quick word from today's sponsor. Are you tired of your same old boring browser? I know I am, and that's why I'm here to tell you about
I don't like Opera. I'm not a big fan of Opera, so let's just skip over that. I mean, they got a lot of cool tools, I guess. A lot of cool customization.
Now, let's say you're watching a little Mr. Matty, and you're like, hey, very easily
more.
House, they have a great import tool, like browser index for sponsor. The prologue section of today's video.
There we go.
All right, so we played the prologue section of the game. Shout out to Xbox for the hookup. What do we see here? First thing we see is the character creator. Now, visually speaking, I think it's a little bit more important this time around because we can go in third person in the Outer Worlds 2. And I say that because it reminded me a lot of Avowed, where I really didn't like my appearance either way. Woman, you're better looking and cooler looking, so I ended up playing as one for my first rodeo in the Outer Worlds 2.
And those lips.
But
it's just,
I'm a little bit let down by this character creator and how
Yeah, that's about how it goes.
Characters are appearing, especially because I was excited about the third person mode, and now it's like I'm gonna be rushing to the first helmet and piece of armor that I can slap on my character. Men, I'm sorry if you're like me. I don't know, I don't think I have that unique of a haircut or a hair color. You tell me if I'm wrong down below. I know, like, the whole jersey anime shirt combo, maybe that's something that's tough to find in an RPG. Fair enough, but look, like, when it comes to the character creator for men, yo, we're not looking hot out there. I don't know, man. Like, it was, I just,
Yeah, it looks like a woman. It looks like a lesbian. Does it not?
not like it, unless I was like,
It's got a more feminine jawline. It's like they switched the jawlines. Like, what's going on here? It's so weird, and it's like almost too perfect, you know? There's no edge. It's too clean.
a typical looking dude bro or something. Like, I was not cooking with the male character creator. So maybe it's mean because I had to go into like more female hair options, which is not how I feel like I'm rocking it. But I don't know. I did not like how guys looked
those
in the character
hair,
creator.
those hairstyles are just weird, man. They're really boring. They're boring.
Unless you had shorter hair, then I think you're doing fine. Would
It's
I care
like-
more about
It's like they're trying to do Gen Z haircuts, but they're 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds that work at this company. So they have no idea what they're doing.
in this character creator are my RPG elements. And that's where we get into backgrounds, traits, skills. A lot of these were shared between Avowed and the Outer Worlds 2. One of the biggest differences I could at least tell early
So this is Avowed in the future.
on is that my background mattered way more in the prologue of this game. And I hope that carries across the entirety of the experience, because in Avowed there was a lot of flavor dialogue, as I'll probably mention multiple times this video, and that fell really into the background of your character. And I get it, it was a multiplayer game gone single player, but here in the Outer Worlds 2, I was very happy to see my background felt like it opened up some unique options, some unique ways to solve problems. The traits,
And like the black dudes, they look gay. Like, come on, they look like the same character models that's in all of these woke trash games. And I'm sorry that I think that way. It's just like pattern recognition in my brain. It just looks bad.
I'm a little bit in the middle on. You kind of have
Not
your
into
positive and negative traits, a lot like Fallout New Vegas, where if you go in on some traits, you're going to take some negatives to offset it. Some I thought were just way better than others in the positive section of the traits, like additional skills that you could specialize in, where you normally have 2, but you could specialize in 3, versus like sprinting into people to knock them over, or increased sprint speed and crouch speed. Like, there were some that were so obviously way better, and I hope this list does stretch out a little bit longer, because I think there just needs to be more traits here to balance out what I think are very obvious choices. Anyway, I picked a little bit of a mixture of like the crouch speed.
This is like too much light, too much color. There's the teal and the purple. There's the teal and the purple. In all of these games every fucking time, man.
The sprint speed, and of course the third specialization. And I think to offset it, I took 15% less health. I'm like, easy choice. Then you get into the skills. If you've played the Outer Worlds 1, you'll know they had them as like families of skills, and they would all level up together, and then eventually once you surpassed 50 and you hit that threshold, you'd be able to elevate them individually. This is a situation, to me already, I can say, where less is more. You have things like medical, sneak, engineering, speech, and these are all utilized in individual pockets of the games that are reflected in gameplay way more than they really ever were in the Outer Worlds 1. And I think that will be a
This looks like Marathon. It looks like Marathon.
huge improvement, again, if the skill checking I saw was anything to go by in the prologue. We'll see how it goes across the full game. Not trying to sound too defensive here. We'll see. But I was encouraged by how the skills were applied. So I felt like character creation and actually who I was going to be mattered more than just flavor text and, you know, hey, I'm the ex-convict for like 5 minutes and it just sounds cool.
Kind of like Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk had a problem with that too.
But it doesn't actually change anything. That's what I expect from big budget RPGs. Have these things matter. If you're indie, you get the pass. So you start off the game as a commander aboard a ship
Oh, look
on
at
behalf
that.
of
There's
the
a whole bunch of teal everywhere. Why is the lighting teal?
Earth Directorate. And the game is already still funny in the
It's
way
so
I love
weird.
it, but it does appear to take itself a little bit more seriously.
And then there's like this weird clash of there's orange and then there's teal lighting. What the fuck is this? Like, why is this so hard? And like no shadows? Where the fuck's shadows for this? There's no, like, there's a little bit of shadow right there, but it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Which I imagine a lot of you were looking.
It's like the shadows are too lit up too.
For based on comments.
Look at that. There's a bunch of purple.
I read. So an example of this is a protectorate guard having a conversation with a.
What is this teal haze? It's really hazy, and then it goes hard into orange. It's like this color slop.
Other one of the grunts in the area, and they were talking about turning in their family because they insinuated that they didn't have an important job. Another example that I can't spoil just involves that I talked to a character and blew them off early. Something pretty bad happened to them later, and they were kind of laying there like, if only you were nice to me earlier, then this would have happened. And it was both funny, but also like, damn, I did this to myself. And I knew it played out differently because the first time I was nice to this individual. And so I like that it kind of changed based on how I treated them. And the delivery of it was a good type of humor that I personally enjoy. But some of this I think is going to miss and kind of fall in the camp of what I now call meme-worthy writing. And by that I mean Avowed.
Right. Awesome.
And this is not with
Wonderful.
how characters talk, to be specific, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, that's what I said, man. I called it. I was like, Outer Worlds 2, it's just going to be Avowed, but in space.
The characters in the Outer Worlds talk like how they do in the first game, which I like. They're very.
What the fuck is this beard? It looks like he smeared shit on his face and called it a beard.
Very human, but also corporate. And I find that to be endlessly hilarious. The player dialogue, though, especially in Avowed, I had a lot of issues with.
This is way too lit up. And it's teal. It's got that teal haze.
Anything my character said, I'm like, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I didn't get the feeling as frequently in the Outer Worlds 2, but there was a moment I was able to, it said twirl your pistol and tell a guard that I happened because some of a nasty business that went down earlier.
What?
Yeah, I saw that and went, oh no. It's like, that's just not, that's right. I call it writing that sounds good in your head. Like you write it down, you're like, yeah, that's funny. But when you say it out, you're like, yeah, like, you know, we need to act these things out a little bit more. So the other characters that I spoke to were written like Outer Worlds characters. That was good. That got the thumbs up for me. Player selection dialogue, a little bit iffy on though. Overall, the presentation of the game is far more cinematic. Like there are cutscenes with multiple characters talking and you can interact with them, which
I don't like it. I don't like the character models for anything. I don't like the lighting. And then when it's not got the fucking color puke everywhere, it just looks wrong. It looks flat. And everything's that's probably what it was. They made everything the same color and they were like, shit, how do we differentiate everything? Oh, I know. Let's just change the lighting of all of these different areas.
I know isn't really pushing things super far, but for an Obsidian game, this is kind of new for us. It's also just having full-on produced cutscenes in the middle of these story segments. There's a sense of scale within the levels. It already feels way bigger than the original, even if I didn't get to see all of the exploration, just the skyboxes, the environments, they just feel way, way bigger. And it's much more colorful, which I think the Outer Worlds already had a strong sense of color.
That's something that I didn't like about the first one, and then this one just ramped it up to the max.
Series X visuals appeared to me a little fuzzy, might be the best word. I thought they could have looked sharper, so to me, I felt tempted to play this on PC when the full game comes out. If there's anything else I feel was kind of getting cheaped out on, it's the stealth takedown animation. Like, look, if I'm Xbox, I'm putting out a mandate across all my studios that just after Redfall, you cannot have cheap, crappy stealth takedown animations, like just poking people in the ass and having them literally die on the spot. Like, you can only get so far away with the comedy of it all before I'm like, this just looks like way too much of a corner cut. And I'm not saying I need Dishonored, like I'm putting the dude in a chokehold and like literally dragging him around. There's full
Oh no, I need that. I do need that
body interaction, but like something that just doesn't involve a little poke and you're dead. You know, something like a stealth takedown animation would go a long way, especially because with the level design I saw and how
you only got to have like one or two different ones. That's all you got to have, instead of just poking them in the butt and then they're dead.
You could actually use stealth in the Outer Worlds too, and it might actually be worthwhile. I feel like this was a resource worth investing in. But let's get to the real meat and potatoes of the experience. What we're here for with an Obsidian RPG, and that is role-playing, skill checking. Now, there was a lot that I could skill check, and I mean that in a good way because a lot of it was framed with gameplay consequences. The problem, again, with the window of the demo, and I think I can already predict it now, a lot of people are going to be like, I was skill checking everything. It was friggin' awesome. The problem is that a lot of people look at skill checks and they're like, I can do it. They passed. And it's like, no, it's about you can do it. What happens after? I got to skill check things, but I didn't get to see what happened after. Not just in character reactions, but even within the levels. For example, I found a robot that if I had a high enough engineering to mess around with, I could augment it to fight with me. There was the ability to get a key card from a terminal, but my hacking skill wasn't high enough, so I couldn't get that. That would have gotten me through a doorway a little bit easier. I could have used the media port on a communications device. I'm not sure what that would have led to, but one good example of it being a bit more tangible was I got a bit of lore from a chalkboard that I could interact with, and the only reason I could understand what was on the chalkboard was because I chose the professor as my background. It's important to note that a lot of these initial skill checks seem to be targeting gameplay reactions and not just flavor text, which many RPGs, including Obsidian's most recent...
I like that, but with everything else, you know, it's just kind of, I don't really care.
We're very guilty of. So it looks like, again, can't say for sure, but it looks like we're setting up a situation where how I build my character matters. There were some routes throughout the level I couldn't go through because my lockpicking wasn't high enough. That was a big one. I was like, dang, I should have invested in lockpicking because I felt like every door I wanted to get into was locked in this game.
So from what I'm hearing him say, there's too many checks. There's too many things that you can't do. I don't like that. I don't like that in Fallout whenever I go up to something and I can't use it because I'm skill checked out. I do like that. I like that I don't like it, but too much of it all at once, back to back, it's going to get really old. I'm going to get tired of not being able to do things.
And that would have been immensely helpful in my exploration, but I love that the game told me no oftentimes. And one thing Obsidian's mentioned before is embracing missed content. And
yeah, you're also playing just the prologue, and if you're having all kinds of skill checks that you're not being able to pass right there at the beginning, that's not good.
And with Avowed, I didn't feel that as much as I kind of felt it with the Outer Worlds too.
I'm not trying to just like nitpick this game, but I totally am trying to nitpick this game. Like, man, everything about it just seems like L to me.
There comes a point where you can literally go left or right. There's just two paths. One is the gun blazing path. The other is the stealth path. And I got to see both of those through on 2 different playthroughs. And I got to say, I am surprised that when I went through the entirety of the prologue, you don't see the opposite side of that facility depending on which way you go through. If you take the stealth route, it's not like most games where, okay, eventually we're going to feed you through and we're going to put you in the part where the gun's blazing section. It's like, no, you just completely miss that part and what's over there. And I love that. That's what's been missing from many RPGs, but including Obsidian RPGs. I don't want to see everything. That's what makes the finale of these games so brilliant is I'm like, oh, that was amazing. And I get to play this again and see it through a different light. Like, that is what makes these games tick. And I feel like I'm seeing some signs in the skill checking and in the choices of how
which sounds good on paper, but also if there's only 2 routes to go down, you know, that's only 2 playthroughs. Like, what do you mean? Like Fallout New Vegas, I could play that game 5 times in a row, and it'd be a different playthrough every time.
Gameplay plays out, that I might be able to get that here. As for dialogue choice, there was a lot of X will remember that. I mean, a lot. And I saw it in some ways play out. For example, that one time a guy was like, if only you were nice to me earlier. But in the terms of the finale of the prologue, I didn't see like dramatically different cutscenes or dramatically different endings depending on what I did beforehand. This goes back to what I said, kind of a safe prologue. Kind of want to...
I kind of don't like it whenever it tells me that somebody's going to remember something that I said. I'd rather just figure it out on my own instead of being like, oh, I just changed something. But I like it in some games, but dude, it's in every fucking RPG now.
To see like the breadth of the options that the game is offering and to be a little more firm on like they're heading in a right direction and this does feel good or not. So while the verdict is out on the choices, I can talk a bit more about the gameplay and what I feel a little bit stronger on, which is that the Outer Worlds 1's combat was all right. Like, it was serviceable. Like, it was a game where you could shoot.
I think Outer Worlds 1 looks 1,000 times better than Outer Worlds 2 with the lighting and the shadows and how it's not as blobby. It's more dirty and edgy.
You could loot, and that was fine for what it was trying to be. I think some people are a little bit harsh on it, and I never really agreed with it because A lot of the game is about talking to people and finding unique solutions through your obstacles. This game, though, because of the breadth of the level design and the different paths you can take and the improved gunplay, the expectation should be better AI, for example, that actually fights you. When I played this on normal and I was doing stealth, there was a moment where like an enemy looked straight at me and barely reacted. Granted, we're a couple months away, but still, it was a little bit of an uh-oh moment. So playing it on normal, I went, this does feel a little bit like old gamey Outer Worlds 1, where, yeah, I mean, the role-playing stuff can be cool, but I can kind of joke my way through the game. So on playthrough 2, I went to the hard difficulty, and I'm glad I did, because this feels like where the game should be played. Like, I actually had robots that would fly at me and flush me out of cover. I had enemies with melee weapons that were way more aggressive. They didn't feel super spongy in an unfair way. This incentivized stealth gameplay. This incentivized a little bit more intensity on me doing speech checks. Like, if you're listening to this and you're like, one way or another, I'm playing the Outer Worlds 2, then just take this away with you. Play the damn game on hard, because it felt way, way, way better that way. Like, immediately I locked in on a completely different level. And I'm usually one who, like, I just go with normal. I go with whatever the developer recommended difficulty is. This felt really, really good on hard, because there was a little bit of added intensity to everything I did. Like, going guns blazing, you can do this, but you know, it's going to be a little bit more hard because the enemies do hit a bit harder. I didn't see a control option for it, but I hope the game has like leaning, because that was something that got me shot a lot when I shouldn't have been shot. And that would have been a great feature to have if it's not there. This game is getting a lot of comparisons to Fallout, which makes sense, especially when you're adding a radio to your technological device that is very, very, very Fallout. Some other Fallout-isms that I noticed, though, because you know me, Fallout brain Matty, never shuts off. A lot of gore. When there are explosions, I mean, you know what I'm talking about in Fallout, where every limb's missing, like heads missing, arms missing, legs missing. It's just a torso and a waist with literally nothing else. I saw that level of gore and arms blowing off, and it wasn't anything like Fallout where you shoot someone in the head and their whole body explodes. At least,
and their eyeballs
not
fly
yet.
out.
Again, would have loved to see the perks and the leveling up and how that plays out and what gameplay buffs I get there. But as it stands now, lots of gore. Not sure if it's Fallout level though, but it seems like when it makes sense, like I shot an exploding barrel where a protectorate guard was there, and when it blew up, I mean, there were parts of him everywhere. I love that stuff. When you combine that with the slow-mo kill cam, I am getting a lot more Fallout vibes here. And I smiled when it happened. When I shot someone and it went like slow motion and their body just ragdolled and I heard the slow motion sound effects, I went, yeah, dude, that's Fallout.
But
ultimately, what sucks is that I can't sit here and go chest down and be like, yeah, they did it. There was reactivity, and I got to see the leveling up, and there were real gameplay ramifications to that, and I got to explore, and the areas were much bigger and more impressive. In a lot of ways, I have to call it how I see it. It feels like Obsidian and in turn Xbox were leaning on studio reputation to carry a lot of this preview. Like, oh, this is Obsidian proper. You see, there are skills that are popping up in dialogue, but I think actual RPG fans will be able to sniff this one out and be like, I got to see how all of this reacts. I can speculate all day why this preview was incredibly safe. I mean, it could be because Avowed's was incredibly open. People got to play that for up to 6 hours. But the reality is that is just speculation. If I could be definitive on anything, it's just that the preview didn't move me really in a more positive direction. That's as someone who, as you've heard in my coverage before, was a little bit more hype on the game, even with the $80 price tag, because I like...
Yeah, I'm not hype on any of these new AAA games coming from corporate studios. They all just, like, have this kind of vibe. They all got the color puke. They all got the terrible character models that look like they're trying to make them for the modern audience, the Gen Z audience, but they're like 40 and 50-year-olds trying to be cool, and they're not cool. And they should just be trying to be cool 40 and 50-year-olds instead of trying to be cool 40 and 50-year-olds for the 20-year-olds. Like, it doesn't work like that, man. Really, you should be making games for millennials, because that's the main demographic.
Obsidian RPGs. I just feel with the doubt...
Which maybe, actually, that might be the problem. They're making games for millennials and Gen Z, but they're making them for the millennials who are trying to be as cool as Gen Z. You know, the people that are super lame. We got those every fucking generation that comes up. They're trying to pander to those people, and they don't actually play video games.
Around it being an $80 game at one point, and now the latest companion trailer being absolutely destroyed, I feel like the slice of the game you have to show to people like me has to be way, way more convincing. And it's not, so I'm not one to negatively speculate.
Yeah, this shit is way too clean. Even where it's dirty, it's too clean.
But I do want to trust my gut here, which is saying that something feels off with the framing of this preview. And if it was just an honest mistake, I hope there's a second round that shows the game in a much stronger light. One that shows off its strengths.
I don't think
and
so,
one
bro.
that clearly makes it an
so.
RPG and not a
I think this is what it is.
stealth action shooter game. But still, this was an hour snippet, and when I played the first Outer Worlds for a preview, it was multiple hours long, and I got to walk away with a decent feel for it all. A lot of this feels a bit surface level, but the good news is I didn't see anything super concerning. But if the game's going to be big, then how could I in such a tight window? Get what I'm...
It looks like woke trash. It looks like they toned down the wokeism, but it's still there. Like, my pattern recognition is on fire right now.
I'm saying, so this should give you a gauge of where the Outer Worlds 2 is at. I think right now, no need to completely fear, but definitely wait out for those full reviews of people who have actually played the game through all the way.
It sucks. Like, people get mad at me. They leave hate comments down there because I'm talking about games that I'm not going to buy. It's like, man, I'm trying to find games that I will buy. Resident Evil 9 is a good example of a AAA game that I'm totally 1000% going to buy. Probably week 2. I don't do day 1, week 1 anymore. Because I don't trust anybody. Even my favorite people, I don't trust them. Yep, I'm looking forward to this game coming out and everybody just absolutely eviscerating it like what happened with Avowed, and Assassin's Creed Shadows, and Dragon Age of Veilguard. Oh boy, I cannot wait! Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for all notifications.